And there's records, and here we come back to participatory knowledge again, because there's records in the Cathars of them remembering past lives through their intense practices, and then realizing, oh my God, that they really do remember past lives. So it was a confirmation of the theory through this participatory epistemology that they could affirm it themselves. And one would wish that they would have been left alone, but they weren't. They were persecuted, and I don't know if you know this, but the source of the Inquisition and the formation of the Inquisition in 1229 was specifically to persecute the Cathars. That's how the Inquisition came into being, and they were persecuted and driven out. They were forced to under torture to recant their beliefs, to affirm the conventional Catholic beliefs, or be hung or burned at the stake. And many of them refused. Most of them, I have to say, almost all of the perfecti refused to recant. So all of them were unfortunately burned or hanged. And of course, there's the famous story of Montsegur, where they all hide out in their castle up in the mountains, and finally they're taken out. And they just took them all out. They took them down to the base of the castle, and they burned all of them. They put them all to the stake, all 200 of them. So it was a terrible incident. And one of the doctrines that was fundamentally attacked was the belief in reincarnation. So you can see what a threat the reincarnation was to the Catholic Church and Convention, because it was fairly widespread. So, death of reincarnation. No! You can't kill reincarnation. Here it comes back again. How? Through the Hermetica. The Hermetic texts are finally discovered in Byzantium, taken to Cosimo de' Medici, who gives them to Ficino, and Ficino translates them, and those texts teach reincarnation. And they become extremely popular and widespread in Europe. They go into they translate from the Greek into the Latin, and then into conventional languages, Italian, German, and so on, and reanimates the theory of metempsychosis, and that theory stays until this day. I can't begin to track all of the history from this date forward, because it gets really complicated. I read when I was doing the primary research, there's over 900 books on the subject. I haven't read all 900 books, so maybe in 3 more lifetimes. So it's like very, very dense at this point, so I'm only going to give you just one example, because we have to bring in yet another stream of influence, and that would be Francis Mercurius van Helmont, who is a fascinating individual. And van Helmont was a Flemish iatrochemist. Iatrochemistry, you probably never heard of iatrochemistry, because it's the chemistry of medicine and healing. It's alchemy, but it's the alchemy designed not for turning in gold, and it's not the Hermetic spiritual transformation alchemy. It's the third stream, which is iatrochemistry, which is the how do you apply it to the healing of the physical body. So his father was an extremely famous iatrochemist. And he integrated the Hermetic text, which he read in Ficino's translation, and he integrates the Kabbalah, which is the Jewish tradition, which I haven't mentioned. So I take a moment here to look into this. And this is because van Helmont worked with a rather famous person who is Nor von Rosenroth. Von Rosenroth was a very well-trained Hebrew scholar. And, there's a lot of talk about Kabbalah and the influence of Kabbalah on Western Esotericism, but really the Kabbalah Denunata, or the Kabbalah Unveiled, and this was the cover of the book when they published it here, is really the first primary source text that was available to, more widely available to Europeans who were not Jewish, because they translated it out of the Hebrew into Latin. So suddenly there was a text that introduced theories of transformation based on the Kabbalah teachings. And this collection of texts focuses on the teachings of Isaac Luria and the formation of the theory of reincarnation in the teachings of Isaac Luria. So we have to bring in yet one other stream here that influences the theory. And this is Isaac Luria's teaching, which I'm just going to summarize here in just a few moments here. This is the teaching of Gilgul. Gilgul is the term for reincarnation. And actually the term Gilgul means cycles of the soul, neshamat. So Gilgul neshamat, cycles of the soul. Well, Luria's teachings were based on a theory of tikkun, which I think is, right there, tikkun. Tikkun was this theory. When God created the universe, the first thing he created was the 10 spheres, the 10 worlds, right, over here. And though there's 11 there because it's drawn this way. That's usually not in the drawing right there. That's the channels. That represents all the channels. So these 10 worlds were first created by God. But God's power was so great, it flowed down through the 10 worlds, the 10 dimensions, and the bottom 7 were shattered. And the pieces fell down into the dark. And those pieces were then assimilated into the physical world. And so the practice of the Kabbalah is to redeem the world, to remend the spheres. And the spheres are remended as the soul can journey up through the spheres and into the highest knowledge of the Ein Sof. This is the process of esoteric knowledge. And you can't do it in one lifetime. It takes a lot of work. So he introduces this theme, he being Isaac Luria, introduces this theme of the restoration of creation through multiple lifetimes of disciplined practice. This is a very Buddhist kind of idea. Multiple practice of many lifetimes to redeem creation and to restore everything back to its perfect balance. It's somewhat like the Bodhisattva idea of the redemption of the world through constant reincarnation. And this theory is, through that text of the Kabbalah de Nidada, is integrated into the dialogues of Western esotericism in this book, which Van Helmont writes. This is the amazing. I have this book. 200 queries moderately propounded concerning the doctrine of the revolution of the human souls. Revolution meaning reincarnation. Right. This is a 250-page book, never published after its original publication. And I'm happy to say I got a copy of it and read it. And it's a remarkable document, which I can't really go into all the detail of it. But I think, and if there's somebody here who knows that this isn't true, I would love to talk with them. I think this is the earliest extensive dialogue and writing on the theory of reincarnation in Western esotericism. I know there are the Hermetic texts and so on, but I don't know of any other doctrine that is so extensive, except in Jewish writings. And because in Jewish Kabbalah there are texts that were written on the nature of the soul. There's Chaim ben Joseph Vital's Shaharach Gehillim, which is all about reincarnation too. So this was an extensive, a total challenge to the Orthodox Church of his day. But you notice it's post-Protestant Revolution. So there's some space there for challenging the church and hopefully not being burned at the stake because they've gotten past that, hopefully. And so, yeah, right. So he does write this, and he does challenge a lot of ideas, but he introduces two themes which are worth pointing out here, and that is that it's a law of science to talk about reincarnation, not a religious phenomenon. It's a natural law. Everything recycles, comes back, returns. And Van Helmont writes out an extensive theory questioning all of the orthodox teachings of Christianity. And